What's going on, Dominators? Rico Garcia here, and in this special public adjusting corner with our very own Carlos Machin, the claims machine, we're talking about money and the benefits of bringing in a public adjuster and whether or not you, as a water mitigation, mold remediation, roofer, or any other kind of contractor, if you should be considering bringing on a public adjuster, and more importantly, what that means to not only your bottom line, as well as the extra time that you could potentially gain, but also how this affects the property owner that ultimately you want to serve to the best of your ability. So without further ado, this is going to be an awesome little session that we jam out on. I hope that you enjoy, take some notes, and here we go.
Welcome to the Restoration Domination Podcast, where you learn actionable advice that moves the needle and helps service-based businesses dominate. Here's your host, Rico Garcia Jr.
All right, Carlos, what is up? Carlos Machin, the claims machine, once again in another public adjusting corner, giving us some value bombs. Are you ready to help us dominate?
Let's do it, man. Thanks for having me.
Let's do it. So today I want to talk about money, right? Because money is important. Money is the lifeblood, literally, of any business, of any entrepreneur. And money is one of these things that I believe strongly that an entrepreneur should be using in order to buy their time back as much as possible. So typically, when most contractors think about a public adjuster, they start thinking in terms of they're digging into my kitty, they're digging into my honey hole, they're taking something away from me so that they can make money. And depending on how you look at this, I think there is some truth to that, right? I think there's bad PAs out there, and you look, there's an exchange of value, right? Like you are in fact potentially taking something from a potential profit center, but you're also giving something back, right? Which I think a lot of times, number one, it's a value. And this value comes in a lot of different ways. It comes in the form of time that you're buying, that you're giving back to the contractor. And then the other side of that is in actual monetary value. And unfortunately, this is the unforeseen, right? This is like the speculation in the market, right? Which is by bringing in a PA, sometimes you can take an invoice or an estimate that was miscalculated, wasn't well thought out, or what have you, and boom, now you've bumped up this invoice to a reasonable amount, to a fair amount that the contractor should have been getting paid to begin with. And sometimes your fee is really not even a non-starter, right? It shouldn't even have been mentioned because you worked for that fee, you covered your fee, and then above and beyond that, the contractor is making more money. Hence, the homeowner or the property owner is getting even more of what they deserved right from the get-go, right? So that's what I'd like to talk about today. Let's just dig in. Like, what's your take and what's your experience on the importance of having a public adjuster on file and what it means to like restoration contractors, whether it's water mit, remediation companies, or full recon companies that are doing the full gambit. How is it that you fit into the mix, and how is it that you're helping them?
Well, look, I mean, I know there's different services that the different contractors are utilizing these days, especially with these lag times and getting paid from the carriers and basically just paying to chase their money, right? Like a debt collection type of company. They're getting 30, 40, 50% of their money. Like, why give that amount of money when if in fact, playing devil's advocate, if we were to take anything from the pot, we charge here the max in Florida 20%. So 20% is a lot better than 50%, right? I mean, that alone, there's savings. But for us, generally, and in terms of an emergency mitigation situation, I don't want any part of that. As long as you set up the client properly and now I can run with it there to the finish line, then I'm fine. You take your money. I don't want a single piece of it. Now, other PAs, that's not how they work, but everybody's got their own business model. However, if you're not only just in the emergency service sector, and now you're also in the rebuild portion of it, there's a lot of lag time in terms of policy coverage, or what they're going to cover, what they're not going to cover. And you want to deal with that with the insurance company when you can be signing another loss. And then the minute I get involved, I'm going to ensure the proper scope is covered and is paid. You don't have to worry about that. You have made a lot of times when I was even on the carrier side, even with our own vendors, we would say, go ahead and get started with the process. We know that this is the bare minimum that we owe. This is what, per our guidelines, this is what we're going to pay, yada, yada, yada. They would then do the work, call us up and say, we need supplemental funds because of this supplemental damage or whatever this supporting event in terms of taking a cabinet and then you mess with the wall and you got to paint, all this other stuff. Well, now they have to have 20 phone calls between me, supporting documents, this, that, the other. All this time was wasted to then have one of us, a carrier adjuster, say, well, you know what? Yeah, you might want that as a supplement, but that's still not within our guidelines. This is what we can pay for this supplement. And now you just did the work and lost money.
Right.
However, as a public adjuster, I'm here to make sure, one, the client is taken care of, but also my referral source is taken care of. So if you're referring me that business, I'm going to make sure top dollar is paid on that claim. Every piece of scope that is involved in that loss is adjusted properly. And guess what? You didn't touch the file, you did any inspections, you didn't do anything other than, hey, they got the money. Now they're ready to do the repairs, order the materials, go pick up your deposit. How much money did you just save?
Right.
How many new jobs did you sign? You have to really look at your books to see how much that's worth, because to me, if I could do that with claims, go sign another claim and not have to deal with the in-between and just sign and close them. Hey, who can I hire? I'm signing them up. Let's go.
Right.
Because I'm all about buying my time back now. I mean,
right.
you know that we've talked about it. My estimates, I've got people working for me to do the day ins and day out stuff that just take up too much of my time. And you have to sit back to a point and say, is this worth it? Is it worth for me to really be in the middle of every facet of my business and my jobs? Or can I just let this guy handle it and he's going to take care of me? Now, obviously, you got to get a good relationship with a public adjuster, one that's capable to do that job. But once you do, you should be set and you should see an increase in revenue. I know the contractors that I work with, they're busy. There's not a contractor I can't find that's not busy right now. So again, why would you want to deal with this insurance companies? I mean, before we even got on, we just talked about one of our jobs that we have together, that the adjuster is just not answering either one of our calls. This is what they do. But how much time have we wasted doing that? Now imagine a contractor that's not pounding nails into a board, rebuilding someone's house. How much did that cost you?
Right.
To me, that's a lot.
Yeah. And having again, having your time back is so valuable, right? And sure, maybe you have a team and, you've got a dedicated department that's going ahead and hunting all of this down, but we also have to stop and recognize the strengths and weaknesses of our departments and the people within those departments and what they actually have the ability to do. And discussing policy, sometimes it just boils down to policy. And then, the desk adjuster, the claims examiner, they're not necessarily arguing scope. They're arguing coverage. They're arguing the actual coverage that's available for the
Correct.
homeowner, for the property owner. And as a contractor, there's a lot of treading that happens around this particular subject, right? But it's very easy also just from a liability standpoint for a desk adjuster to make the claim is like, hey, are you discussing your scope of work, or are you trying to adjust this claim without a license? All of a sudden, that's one of these things where you don't even really want to open up that can of worms. So when at least in my opinion, number one, getting your time back, that's paramount, right?
Well, but hold on, Rico, you just touched on a very, very important thing, especially here in the state of Florida. If that fine line is breached in the eyes of that adjuster or the insurance company,
well, it's an easy argument to make.
It's a very, and it can go both ways. And I'm not a big fan of going either way. I mean, I think the contractors, they should be able to talk, about their invoices and what is part of the job. 100%.
100%. Right.
But the insurance carrier will spin that as quickly as they possibly can if you piss them off for something stupid. So now you might be facing up to a $10,000 fine. You want to lose how many jobs you got to now go sign to make up that 10 grand? And
it's not and this isn't some pie in the sky type of scenario. These are not scenarios that we have not heard of happening to contractors, right?
Yep.
Again, does it happen as often as you would think that it does? Probably not.
And it
But
probably happens to the guys that shouldn't happen to, full disclosure, but it's happening.
Right. But it certainly happens, right? So even from a liability standpoint, right? Like, do you really want to have someone in your department that is dedicated to chasing down your money from the carriers? Do you want to even put them in a position to where one day they're just not on their P's and Q's and they just slip, they say the wrong thing? It's like, whoa, are you trying to adjust without a license? It's like all of a sudden now this can of worm is opened up, right? So there's like so many things that get tied into what I personally believe are the benefits of bringing on a public adjuster. Does that mean that you have to use a public adjuster on every single claim for all of our dominators out there? No, not necessarily. But, again, picking your battles. And ultimately, this is, in my opinion, one of the things that helps the contractor, first and foremost, make more money. Yep. And then above and beyond that, helping the homeowner and the property owner get the right services that they actually need. Because if the homeowner doesn't have money, right, and they're depending on the payout from the insurance company in order for them to put their kitchen back together or to, whatever repairs need to take place in their home, they're depending on those funds. If all of a sudden the insurance company, instead of, giving 50, they give 30, well, now that homeowner has to make a sacrifice on the quality of what they actually wanted, right? And the contractor now has to start thinking outside the box of how can I provide you with something that is suitable, that is, to your liking, but is in fact of a lesser quality. How can we, all of a sudden now as a contractors, now you're starting to think about, well, how can you save on man hours so that you can still deliver, something to this homeowner, but it's not going to be at the same rate, right? So, it kind of goes back to the, good, fast, and cheap, right? So you can have any two, that type of scenario. So having the right amount of funding and being able to have the freedom of also speaking policy in case if they play that card, I think that this is extremely important, role to have that kind of a symbiotic relationship.
No, I agree 100%, man. It's, I know the contractors I work with, we work very well together. They know when to call me. They know when not to call me. I have gone to jobs that they thought was a claim, but guess what? It really wasn't. And I had to tell the homeowner that's the other reason too. You might be involved in a job that you think is a claim, have them file it. I can handle it for you. But now they just filed a claim under their policy that wasn't covered. We're able to do that. We're able to do that legally with the homeowner. We can do it, as a proxy through them, but again, it just muddies the water for no reason. I don't charge anything to go out to a property and evaluate and do a consultation. So what's the cost to them at the end of the day? But again, you can just be out there signing more stuff, worried more about getting more personnel, to actually be doing the physical work. The labor shortage is crazy out there. So worry about all that stuff. Let us handle the pain in the ass insurance companies that all they want to do is argue, mainly, like you said, coverage. That is their number one argument. They don't have a clue about scope, half of them. I just had one this morning that the insured had to correct this adjuster like 4 times. He's like, oh yeah, you mean your shelves. Client's like, no, those were built-ins. They're $50,000. I didn't buy shelves from IKEA in my library that houses $100,000 worth of books.
Right.
Come on. So they don't even have the idea of nomenclature. So you're generally arguing with a wall and you're just spinning your wheels for no reason. And listen, we do too all the damn time, but that's what we pray to do. That's what our services come in. But again, generally, if it's all done properly, it's all documented. Now you potentially had a 10% increase because of the proper scope that we argued that you guys, sometimes I'm sorry, look, contractors, they're great at what they do, but they're not very proficient in Xactimate. Some of them have it just because they do a lot of insurance jobs and the insurance jobs show that they need an Xactimate estimate in order to settle the claim. Well, how many line items did they possibly miss that they think is included with drywall repair? A skim coat or knockdown. So there's a lot of money that could be left on the table just because of line items that they weren't aware of using. and we know the insurance company will pay it because that's what we do. So again, it could be, yes, we charge 20%, but what we're bringing extra to that scope could be washing that 20% right off the bat, just because of how much more we can make sure that it's evaluated properly.
So there's a lot of studies out there too. And there's, a wide variety of numbers as far as the percentage that a homeowner would get with a public adjuster versus without a public adjuster. Now, mind you, a lot of these contractors have already been involved, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to kind of take this with a grain of salt, but ultimately I think that the numbers don't lie, right? I think if we cut through all of it, we see like the clear goal, which is with a public adjuster, they get more money. Without a public adjuster, they get less money. Right. And of course, some of these have contractors that have already been involved. Some of these claims, I'm sure, do not have any pros that have been involved whatsoever, whether that's a contractor who's familiar with Xactimate, what have you. But I think that the numbers overall should be somewhere in the ballpark. I mean, there's numbers ranging from 747% increase as far as homeowner payout simply by using a public adjuster. And some other studies show as high as 1,400%.
I haven't run the numbers. You want to hear my numbers?
Let's go.
I haven't run them in a few months. But the last time I checked, we're averaging anywhere from 12 to 1,800% increase. That's right. Staggering. I mean, that is just, honestly, before I got into this business, when I was on the other side, I had no idea. I really had no idea. It's crazy how much these things are getting underpaid. Completely. And again, like the little story I was telling you about, even using our own vendors, our carrier approved vendors, program guys, and they're still getting chopped up and not getting the proper settlements. But we're taking it and increasing it 12 to 1,800%. That's nuts. Now, I know there'll be some haters, mostly not, and no one that's listening to you guys, your podcast, but oh, well, it's a public adjuster. That's why, our insurance rates are high, going high. It's attorneys that are creating more lawsuits. No, it's just that they don't want to pay. They have incapable adjusters. They don't know how to write an estimate. They don't even know, I had one the other day, didn't even know that it was a 2-part faux painting. He thought it was wallpaper. I mean, just like stupid things that every day I get blown away with something new. But it is truly a staggering situation where we can take a claim from $5,000. I'm sorry, we had one last month, $15,000 to $102,000.
Right.
You do the math. I mean, that's just stupid.
And and something that I've mentioned on the show quite a bit is, as a pro, you want to be the absolute best that you can be, not only in your trade, but as a human being, as a professional to the person that you're doing business with. So how do you come off as a pro? Well, you have pros are in your network. You have pros that you can bring in that make you look good in the process. So let's just speak hypothetically, right? For maybe someone who is not, maybe they think they're listening to this and they're like, you know what? I don't do any recon, so I should never have a public adjuster come on because I'm just doing simple water mitigation. That's it. Okay. So now you bill the insurance company, and let's say that you are just shy of walking on water as a water mitigation technician, as an owner operator, and you're getting paid 100% of your invoices, right? You are that unique unicorn. You're getting paid. You walk away from the client. Everything is honky-dory. But now the client has let's say $5,000 that the insurance company is willing to give them for the repairs, right? Yep. Now, when they come down to hiring an actual contractor, they realize that it's $10, $11, $12, $13, $14, $15,000, right? All of a sudden, this homeowner has a bad taste in their mouth. Maybe not with you directly, but with the entirety of the situation. Now, get this. You're the water mid expert. You're the pro. You've got pros that have your back. You're just doing a simple water mitigation. Because you're one of these unique unicorns, you're going to walk away with 100% of your invoice, let's say, right? Great. Now you're out of the race. But before you did that, what you did was you said, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, this is what we're going to do for you because we've been around for a while. We understand how this operates. Let me school you on this. And you give them 1, 2, 3, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. And by the way, I've got the people that can help you with this. So that way you can go about your day. You don't have to go ahead and walk out of soccer practice or out of Taekwondo practice as you're taking your kids to take an insurance call. You don't have to do any of that. We've got the team that's going to go ahead and help you do that. And all of a sudden, now they get from a $5,000 claim to $12,000, $15,000.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you, by proxy, as the water mitigation guy, we're not even talking that you're doing recon, as the water mitigation guy, you are perceived as a superhero, because not only did you do a phenomenal job at, drying out the structure and, protecting the property, and you were really nice and cordial, and the husband loves you, the wife loves you, the family dog loves you, like everything is great. But now you also took that a step further by bringing in additional pros that are going to help that family even more. When it comes time to this individual making a recommendation to their family, to their friends, to one of their coworkers, the very first name that they're going to talk about is going to be you. And they're going to mention somewhere in that process, where I should hope so, that not only do you have this great professionalism, but you've also got a network of people that you have on speed dial, writing your phone contacts, that at any given time, regardless of the situation that homeowner has, you've got the right pro for them.
Yep.
To me, that's powerful. And to me, these are things that still yield a positive return on that investment of time of even making that recommendation.
I mean, I don't know if it's narcissistic a little bit or whatever, but I enjoy being the guy that has the contacts. Like, get to a loss, I'm the first one there. There's no EMS. Hey, no, I got a guy for this. I got 3 different guys for this. I got a guy to rebuild everything. I got a guy to take all your contents out of here. I got someone, a company that's going to take you and put you in a house. I've got somebody for today. I just saw one. The guy was talking to me about something, and we both had his wife had back problems. I had back. Oh, I got a chiro for you. Boom. And then that client is just like, wow, this guy knows a little bit of everybody, and he's my go-to, and it kind of just brings everything full circle. And you're like that superstar. You're the superhero coming,
you're connected,
saving the day, in multiple facets of their life. And it could be anything as stupid as speaker repair. Oh, I know somebody that does that. And man, you can see the client's face light up. I don't have to go searching. This guy just saved me so much time, and he's got somebody that he's used before, or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's golden. And honestly, it makes me feel good at the end of the day, especially not only that we help clients and insurers get their monies and their pre-loss condition back, but we're also to help them with other things and calm their life down with all this craziness that's happening right now. I mean, construction is a pain to begin with. When you want to do it, like if you want to do a renovation in your house, you want it to, update it, but it's still hell on earth to live through. Now, these people are going through this without wanting to do that. How much worse does that feel? So if you help them out with that, and now, you're the EMS and you bring a public adjuster in that now takes care of all the insurance stuff for them. And then you can do the rebuild, or you have the contractor do the rebuild because you guys work together hand in hand. And man, you guys, I mean, I don't have to tell you, Rico, that's a referral source forever.
Yep.
That's someone that's going to tell everybody about you. So again, how much is that worth? I think it's crucial to have these alliances. I mean, I'm surrounded by professionals. I know, I stay in my lane. When I need something done, I call a pro. Like I got to start looking for one today. This guy has a crazy book collection. I got to find a book mover, or someone that can pack up books that are antiques. I don't know anything about that. I'm not an antique book collector, so I'm not going to pretend, but I do know that it's going to be expensive. I do know the carrier is not going to estimate that properly, so I got to go do my due diligence. Why, as a contractor, would you want to go wasting time searching on how to pack books properly? I mean,
right.
Honestly, so again, these are the little things. Yeah, you may pay office staff. Okay, well, how much are you paying that office staff? How much are you paying for the electric for them to work? How much are you paying for the computer they're working on? Where do you start adding up all these costs that go into that employee? Whereas you can just not pay me at all, and most likely you're still going to come out with the same numbers, if not more.
Exactly.
That's the way I look at it. So
yeah. And one of the last things is, how do you, especially as a water mitigation, mold remediation, roofer, what have you, like, how do you vet a good public adjuster, right? And unfortunately, like there's only really one way to do that. And that's through communication, like getting to know the individual, getting to know their company, getting to see firsthand what their documentation process looks like, what their letters look like, what their contracts look like. Do they have any kind of system in place that gives you, as a contractor who's somewhat familiar with what this process should look like, that if you hand them a client, that that client's going to be well taken care of, right? Because there's a lot of firms out there that are large, right, and that they're really big, and they talk about size and how important that is, but if God forbid they get a file of yours, like, it's sitting on their desk for a year to 2 years, right? So it's all about like how the process is going to flow, for not only for you but for your client. So I think like having open communication about what, as a contractor, what your workflow looks like, and then how your workflow and their workflow as a public adjuster, what that looks like, and what the end result is going to be at the end, right? And just having that open, candid conversation about what the true goals are and how you can help maximize the profitability on all sides, right? For the contractor, for the homeowner, and just making sure that everybody is well taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy vetting process by any means. I mean, I've, even on the flip side, vetting contractors and mitigation companies, it's not been easy. But really, yeah, it takes one or two files to work together on to really see how they work and see what the success rate is. At the same time, you can't necessarily gauge that one or two files completely, because we both know the carriers depict really somehow how delayed these things get. But I think just track records, if they're able to provide you, like you said, a file, here's what I did from A to Z, this is what we got offered, here's what we got settled, here's how long it took, you have a little bit more of an ability to do so. Just because they're all over social media and, they have a nice ad campaign or anything like that, doesn't mean that they're anything, in my opinion. Sorry, anybody that doesn't agree with it, but no different than, listen, Better Business Bureau and Angie's List. You got to pay to be on these lists. So anybody can pay to be on there to be A-rated. Doesn't mean diddly squat. I mean, how many A-rated insurance companies are out there? They're still not paying claims, So you just gotta look. For me, I've always been a pretty good people reader. I've been able to judge character pretty easily, and you just gotta trust your gut on some of these things and just let it ride. Some of them are going to work out, some of them are not. And unfortunately, during storm season, that was a tongue twister. During storm season, things get even worse, because people are so frantic all over the damn place, and our systems and our processes don't always stick like they normally do, because we're all just scrambling to try to get to everything we can. So it gets a little difficult in that time, especially intake of referrals and things like that. But just do a little bit of homework, see how many files they transfer or run through in a month. I would see how many claims they have open, things like that. But
and just get comfortable with the process, right? Overall, just get comfortable with the person that you're going to be dealing with. The person, how they treat customers is possibly even more important to some degree than the total amount of money that they're going to get for the client, right? Because if it's a discrepancy of $1,000 typically on a big claim, like, okay, who cares, right? Like, if a public adjuster tells me, it's like, oh well, I could have gotten an additional $1,000 on this $100,000 claim. It's like, well, that doesn't even move the needle, right? Because the customer was so well taken care of throughout the entire process. They were informed, they were abreast of what was going on, they knew exactly what to expect next, and if that move didn't pan out, what was going to happen after that. Like, to me, there's value in that process as well. So it's really about creating a full picture for your customer, for your client, and also how well you guys are going to work together, right? How well the company cultures, if you will, how well they match, right? Where are their values? Where are your values? And do they align? Because if you get public adjuster contract, if you get a public adjuster who's going to hold up a file over $500 or $1,000 because they're so knuckleheaded that they don't want, well, that's not good either, right? Because now it's just the greed factor is taken over, and they just want to milk it for every penny. Well, that's bad for the customer. That's bad for the contractor. And I think that that's a lot of concern, which is, again, where I think communication is really important. Having the conversation with the other pro, having the conversation with the contractor and saying, hey, look, where is it that you're really at? How, show me some of these files, show me your process. I'll show you my process. And let's see if we think that we can make this work for our customer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's got to just dive into it and be comfortable. If you're not comfortable with the person, then move on to the next one. Look, I built my business on relationships. At the end of the day, it really comes down to relationships. Most people that I do business with or refer, we're not just business acquaintances. We're friends outside of business. We hang out, we go to concerts together. We, our kids know each other or whatever that may be. It says a lot, and I think that's the other thing too. If you're able to get around them in their family setting or on a, outside of completely anything related to do with business, that'll teach you a lot about a person and how they handle everything else in life. So that's definitely been helpful to me in the past.
That's awesome, dude. So anyways, just want to go ahead and thank you for taking the time to hang out with us here today. The importance of profitability is obviously, top of mind when it comes down to any public adjuster, to any contractor, to any entrepreneur as a general whole. And for all of you dominators out there, I'm going to leave in the video description below, as well as in the show notes, all of the links to get in contact with our very own Carlos Machin, the claims machine. And look, use them as a resource. Even if you don't necessarily send him a file, use them as a resource. That's what he's here for. Also, remember that we have our hotline. So if you have any questions or concerns, or if you've had some experiences with previous public adjusters or some funky file that you just want to get off your chest or you want to use as a case study for next time on the Public Adjusting Corner, just pick up the phone, shoot us a call, 678-TALK, the number 2, us. So 678-TALK to us and say, hey, just leave us your name, your company name, if you so wish, and just let us know that this is a Public Adjusting Corner question, and Carlos will go ahead and knock that out on his next time here on the show. And until then, all of my dominators, remember, hustle, hack, dominate. Let's get it.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, your #1 resource for tips, tricks, and hacks to help your business grow. Subscribe to our channel and follow us for more Restoration Domination. And follow our host at Rico Garcia Jr. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.